Calendar. New phone, and I'm all screwed up on it. Okay. So this coming Saturday, 22nd, would that be okay for you?
I'm fine with that.
How about the members?
I can't make it.
Can't make it.
What time is that?
Well, usually we do it at 9 o'clock, 9 a.m.
I'd be okay with that.
Okay, John?
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, 9 a.m. on the 22nd. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm just putting in my calendar here. And then you're going to continue me to first on the agenda on your next meeting?
Yes. Will date specify, next meeting is, I got it. Next meeting is the 14th, November 14th. And you'll be first on the thing. So, 9 a.m. and Little Island Pond Park.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Where is the location going to be that we're going to meet at? The address?
So, let's see,
Good question.
I have to ask. Yeah, but which number is your brother's place? 22. What's that? 22. 22 Little Island Park. So when you come to the end of Honor Roll Road, which is a town road, you bang a right up at the end there. It's just before the last house on the left.
So what was the number on the house?
22,
22? Okay.
so.
All right. Now, for those watching, our site walks are public hearings. You are invited to attend, but these are meetings. Questions, discussions will be through me, and you're welcome to come, and hope and pray that we don't have rain or, God forbid, snow, as they're having out in the Midwest. So the purpose is to see in sight what will be built. What's the height of the building going to be?
So it's my understanding it's a ranch-style home, but the left side's a garage under, so,
So we won't have to worry about a height balloon? No.
and there's nobody around it. There's literally nobody close by.
Okay.
Dave, is that Little Island Pond or Little Island Park?
Little Island Park.
Park.
Little Island Park,
Yeah, it's off of Honor Roll Road.
Okay.
off on
Yeah,
our way
I know
up.
where it is.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next case is Michael Gleason. No wonder you like this proposal.
And on this one, I am going to step down.
Okay. This is a new hearing, so we do need the addresses, okay?
That should be fun.
I kind of think I see where this is going to go, but we'll see.
I had called the office today to see if I needed to bring any of my paperwork, and they said no. So I don't
Yeah,
have my,
Probably a good call, because I think we're heading towards where we went the previous
Right.
case. So we'll get both of these together, but we got to go through this process, okay?
Joanne Morell, Drake, Mass. Bulmer Revocable Trust, Paulette and Roderick Bulmer trustees, Pelham, New Hampshire. Jennifer Sarah and Zachary Riel, Pelham, New Hampshire. Eric and Laurel Schneider, North Andover, Mass. Jeffrey and Roswitha Norton, Pelham, New Hampshire. Donna and David Reedy, Pelham, New Hampshire. Robert Roy, Pelham, New Hampshire. John Murphy, Pelham, New Hampshire. Greg and Jessica Sangin, Pelham, New Hampshire. Town of Pelham, Pelham, New Hampshire. Mark and Paula Poltar, Pelham, New Hampshire. Jeffrey and Roswitha Norton, Pelham, New Hampshire. Thomas and Holly Reed, Pelham, New Hampshire. Michael Ford, Pelham, New Hampshire. Bruce Hinckley, Cincinnati, Ohio. Gerald Gleason, Stowe, Mass. The estate of Daniel Gleason, care of Robert Gleason, Pelham, New Hampshire. Gerard and Ann Gleason, Stowe, Mass. Gerard Gleason, Stowe, Mass. Brian Zhushek, Pelham, New Hampshire. Martha and Frederick Poltar, Windermere, Florida. Mark and Susan Hilbert, Pelham, New Hampshire. Michael Lane, Pelham, New Hampshire. Ross Sargent, Pelham, New Hampshire. Christine and Thomas Daney, Pelham, New Hampshire. Richard and Kerry O'Donnell, Pelham, New Hampshire. Michael Gleason, Pelham, New Hampshire.
Okay. Sean, you'll be voting on this? Okay, but we're not going to get there. Now, you don't have anybody representing you, or an engineer? All right. Ordinarily, I'd ask you to go through the 5 criteria, and then we would discuss having a site walk. I'm not going to, well, you really need to go through the 5 criteria.
If you can give me one of my copies that I
Carrie, do you have the 5 criteria?
see 11 people
Oh,
here.
read that into the record. I am going to open it up for comments, and then we are probably going to go ahead with a site walk to piggyback on the other one, okay? But let's get this done now, so we don't have a pile-up next month.
One, the variance will not be in contrary to public interest because when the home is built, it will be a larger, more beautified home than what is existing. What is there is a 3-season camp that is got black mold in it and is unusable. It is 4 small lots, coffee lots, that will be brought together into a larger lot with a new state-approved septic system, and from there, it will be, as I said, combined into one. The spirit of the ordinance will be observed with the exception of building taller, and all other codes will be complied with due to the fact that we don't have the 200 feet of frontage, and there is the private road, as we've discussed throughout tonight. Substantial justice is done to the neighborhood because it will raise the value of the property that is in question and all of the surrounding properties. And then values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished due to the fact that once the home is all set and built complete, it will be a new modern home in a residential area that will bring the area up to, a more livable and modern era. And then 5, owning the special conditions without making the house any larger or the variances that need to be approved, it's unbuildable. It can't be built. Like I said, there's black mold in the house, and there's also the multiple properties that need to be combined as well. I understand you probably want to do a site walk if you are coming out to Lisa's house. I live 4 houses down the street.
Okay. Quick question now. How high is this house going to be?
24 feet, sir.
Okay. Do you have waterfront?
No, sir, I am
Within 200 feet?
over 250 feet back, so,
So you're not under shoreline?
no, sir.
Okay. Do you have a septic system design approved?
Yes, I do, sir.
Already approved?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to add?
Nope.
We'll go along with the format we just did. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Yes, ma'am.
As he was saying earlier, we grew up together. I grew up with the Gleasons. We were all a tight-knit family. You couldn't do anything without it getting back to your parents. But we loved it up there. It is our dream to live there and carry on the Gleason and Poltar name together. But that's all I have.
Familiar names in this town, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in favor of this proposal? Yes, sir.
Chairman,
Yes.
familiar to some, but could I have the name and address for the record?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Michael
You gotta kick me every once in a while, you know.
Lisa Poltar, and that's off Wheaton Drive, or do you want my home address?
Your current address, your legal address.
778 Merrimack Ave, Dracut, Mass.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back. Mark Poltar, 17 Little Island Park. Like my sister said, it's nice to see the younger generation building the cottages into homes again, and where it is located, like Mike said, that it's an old cottage that has been abandoned, how long has it been abandoned for? 20 years. Got black mold in it. It'd be a good set for the community to have a brand-new home there. The house right across the street is 2 stories, so I don't believe it is affecting any lake views or anything like that. And plus, you're going up a hill. I want to approve it.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Anyone else like to speak in favor? Is there anyone like to speak in opposition or has a question about this application? Is there anyone like to speak in opposition or has a question on this property? Hearing none, we'll bring it back. Let's do a site walk. You're right there. I mean, we might as well, and again, same criteria as the previous applicant. This is a public hearing. Questions will be through me. We want to visually see what you have. Now, the problem that you have is you don't have a professional land surveyor or a professional person doing this. So be prepared to clearly demonstrate to us where these lots are, these
Oh,
little coffee
absolutely.
lots.
I have,
okay?
if you look in the copies,
this
I
on here,
have.
Dave?
a
I know he has them here, I'm talking about on-site.
Okay.
Okay, on-site.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay? Because I don't have a good imagination. All right. All those in favor of having this as the second site walk on next Saturday? Say, well,
Be this
do I have a motion?
Be this Saturday. This Saturday.
This Saturday?
Oh,
Yeah,
this
this
is
Saturday,
next
I'm sorry, this Saturday. Motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we're going to have you right after the previous application.
Great, thank you very much, sir.
We're moving right along. All right, Jeffrey and Nicole Grinley, case 22. 41 Rolling Ridge Lane.
I would just like to point out that it is not a private road.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Best news I've heard all night.
So I'm Jeff Grinley, 41 Rolling Ridge Lane in town.
Yep.
So yeah, we're just seeking an application for a variance to, I feel like it's silly compared to all the other applications and.
No, you're doing the right thing. It's required under our zoning, so I
Right.
appreciate you coming in instead of us going to go out and fine you for not doing it.
Exactly. It's just trying to avoid issues.
Appreciate it.
So yes, just looking to put my shed, 12 by 16 shed, 2 feet off the property line. The neighbors are completely on
Let
board.
me interrupt you and do what I should have done first.
Sure.
Butters list.
Oh,
Hang on,
yes.
hang on. He'll read it.
Oh, perfect, because I won't be able to pronounce them anyway.
Town of Pelham, Pelham, New Hampshire. Iris ATC LLC, Atlanta, Georgia. Sweet Birch Place Homeowners Association, Hampton Falls, New Hampshire. Sweet Birch Place Homeowners Association, Hampton Falls, New Hampshire. Jeffrey Giara and Kelsey Hutchinson, Pelham, New Hampshire. Jeffrey Speck and Julie Carroll, Pelham, New Hampshire. Nicole Allard and Jeffrey Grinley, Pelham, New Hampshire. Bridget Cleakin and David Pendergast, Pelham, New Hampshire. Raymond and Kristen McKinley, Pelham, New Hampshire. Ryan Vaughn and Caitlin Vaughn, Pelham, New Hampshire.
Is there anyone whose name was not called, who's in a butter, or has a statutory interest in this case? Is there anyone whose name was not called or has a statutory interest in this case? All right. Now, tell us again why you're here. You got a shed you want to put in.
Yes, so just wanted to do it right and
Okay.
not just construct it and then have to deal with the repercussions. So I'm looking to build a 12 by 16 shed. Because of the topography of my lot, I would, if it was the normal 15-foot setback off the property line, I would either be on a big downhill or I'd be in the middle of my yard. And I have 2 little kids. I don't really want to take away we have a small lot. I don't want to take away their play area anyway. But yeah, just looking to, that actually the town owns the land behind us, which is actually where that new ATV park thing is going in. Maybe. So yeah, my abutting neighbors, 2 feet to the right, there's all trees. It's seasonally, they might be able to see it, but.
Anything you want to add? You didn't read, did you read the 5 criteria?
Not yet.
I
No.
can't.
Read the 5 criteria, thank you.
The variance will not be contrary to the public interest because it will not alter the essential character of the locality or threaten public safety, public health, safety, or welfare. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because we're only requesting a variance to waive one of the zoning requirements and will meet all the other setbacks and codes. Substantial justice is done because granting this variance will allow us to use our property in the same manner as existing lots. Being denied this variance would create a crowding within our yard, and abutting neighbors agree that the location stated is our best option. The values of surrounding properties will not be diminished because the shed will be vinyl sided and match the aesthetics of the entire neighborhood. Owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from the other properties in the area, denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because, for purposes, do you want me to read that, A? Okay. For purposes of this subparagraph, unnecessary hardship means that owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, no fair or substantial relationship exists between the general public purpose of the ordinance provision and the specific application of that provision to the property because this variance will not affect the general public. However, it would create an unnecessary hardship to our small lot and only having limited locations to put a shed. A shed is the only, in any other location of the property would feel out of place and take away from my small backyard. The proposed use is a reasonable one because the shed will be moved 13 feet closer to the property line than normal. The abutting neighbors will not be bothered. The shed will likely be seen seasonally, for example, in the winter, when no leaves are on the trees. If the criteria in subparagraph A above are not established, an unnecessary hardship will be deemed to exist if and only if, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area, the property cannot be reasonably used to strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it. Because of our small backyard, the 15-foot setback would locate the shed in the middle of my lawn and prevent and inhibit my children's area to play. The shed would be out of place and an unnecessary hardship if the variance is not granted.
Okay, anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this variance? Anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this variance? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition or has a question about this variance? Is there anyone here who has a question or is in opposition to this variance? Hearing none. Anything you'd like to add?
No, sir.
Any questions from the board? Jim?
I'm not, I don't think I remember acting, this is conservation subdivision from the past, I think. It's a 5-acre lot, 0.5 acre lots, they're all small
Yeah,
lots.
I think I'm .6, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just asking how it came about. It looks like it might have been a conservation subdivision. Jen's not here. Carrie, you don't know the answer to that, do you?
I believe it must have been because of the size of the lots.
Okay. You said that and it doesn't make a difference in how a decision comes down normally, but it was nice that you said it. The owners of Lot 282-8, the ones that are immediately to your east, you said they were good with that?
Correct.
Are they here?
No, they're not.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes?
Question, what's the purpose of the shed?
Just for storage of lawn equipment and mostly toys, let's be honest.
Can
Not mine.
understand that. Any non-typical lawn equipment going in there, any ATVs? Or
No, sir.
any snowmobiles?
No, sir.
I have one more question.
Good.
I don't have a good set of plans here, other than what you provided, which is okay, it's good, but on the backside of this subdivision, is there a walking trail around it that's between the backsides of these properties? I see a small lane that's drawn on the,
I think there is, actually.
can you see that, Kerry? Our regular planning director isn't here, and sometimes when these things were done, they developed a walking trail. I'm not sure
There
if
is
they-
on paper, but there's,
No one uses
it's
it?
not cleared at all. It's,
Jim, there was a discussion, 2 weeks ago, I believe, regarding a potential ATV trail in the vicinity of this property. And they said that the trails had not been developed, but they may utilize it as a secondary walking trail, because if they put an ATV trail in there, it would be dangerous.
Oh, yeah. All right, well, I'm just asking, I guess, you're maintaining 15 feet off of that. That would be the setback.
Off the
that
rear
you-
setback,
you would-
correct.
you would next encounter. That's the only other question I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Jeff, do you have a question?
Yeah, you don't have a shed now, then?
No, I
Nothing.
wish.
And you're on the incline there, you said that's the flattest part of the lot? You can do,
That isn't in the middle of the lawn, yes.
that would be the most reasonable place to put it.
Yes.
Slab on grade, or are you putting stone base down for the?
I think I'm just going to do stone. Yeah. Well, whatever the building department says.
Yeah, you can see the walking trail on the satellite view. I don't know why we don't do these anymore.
Anybody else? All right, bring it back up. We'll do the slips first, and then if we have to do a determination, we will.
Thank you.
Okay, this is case 2022, number 22.
David Wing, 5 yeses, final vote yes. Jeff Chara, 5 yeses, final vote yes. John Westwood, 5 yeses, final vote yes. Jim Bergeron, 5 yeses, final vote yes. And Dave Hennessy, 5 yeses, final vote yes.
Variance been approved, it's a 30-day right of appeal. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. For the people watching, I'm not doing on a unanimous with no opposition, I'm just not going to do the record, okay? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Chris Drescher, and I'm here tonight with Matt Welsh of 33 Brookview Drive, and we are seeking a special exception to allow him the home occupation for doing a very small metal fabrication business out of an existing garage.
And before we,
I know you're familiar already, because I know he was here for a variance some time ago, so I know you know some.
Familiar faces. This case before us on a special exception, let's read the abutter list and then we can get into it.
Paul and Jolene Susi Revocable Trust, Pelham, New Hampshire. Daniel Daigle and Rachel Parent, Pelham, New Hampshire. Robert and Sheila Taplin, Pelham, New Hampshire. Matthew Welch, Pelham, New Hampshire. John and Joanne White, Pelham, New Hampshire. Sebastian Oscrio, Pelham, New Hampshire. Jennifer Gilligan, Pelham, New Hampshire. The Richard A. Hall Revocable Trust, Pelham, New Hampshire. Provençal Family Revocable Trust, Pelham, New Hampshire. David and June Provençal, Pelham, New Hampshire. Victor and Amy Rodriguez, Pelham, New Hampshire. Francesco Maglio and Nina Bisson, Pelham, New Hampshire.
Is there anyone here whose name was not called, is an abutter, or has a statutory interest in the case? Yes, come on up.
Well, I have an interest in the case. I live right around the corner on Harrison Road.
Statutory interest. Okay, thank you. And behind you? You're in the neighborhood, that's fine, you can participate, but we just want to make sure that we're getting notices to the people who legally want them. Thrilled you're here. That's fine, okay? To come back on this case, I just want to go over a couple of things here. Now, yes, you've been before us. We made a decision on this case. Now you're coming in not for a variance, but for a special exception on a general home occupation.
Correct.
I want you to focus on why this is coming in under a whole different category, and in what way does it differ from the zoning variance. Would you do that for me, just so, keep it simple?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if I may, the general home occupation is an accessory, according to your ordinance, or application, say your criteria. General home occupation is an accessory use of a home or accessory structure for the purpose of conducting any non-agricultural business activity by a resident of that home that meets the following conditions of this special exception. So, I won't belabor the details of what he does too much, because I'm sure you've been somewhat educated when he was here for the variance, but what he does is a very highly unique, very specialized metalworking operation that is what we'll contend is quite small, quiet, it's isolated, and again, very specialized, most of which has to do with 3D printing. I provided for you some supplemental narrative as to try to get at the heart of what he does. So if you have any questions for him, he's probably better to answer them than I am, because it's all Greek to me. But with that in mind, again, it's specialized. This is a small-scale operation. It's quiet, unobtrusive, contained completely indoors, and will not, look or feel like an industrial feel. Which, I suspect that's probably somewhat of a concern. But going through your criteria for the special exception, number one, the occupation is clearly secondary and subordinate to the primary residential use and shall not change the residential character of the neighborhood. Mr. Welsh is requesting a special exception to allow him to run a small metal fabric operation in his pre-existing detached garage. Majority of the property is still used as the primary residence with his wife. Mr. Welsh will not be adding any new buildings for this business or changing the outside of the garage that already exists in any way, shape, or form. Mr. Welsh will only be working inside the garage, and the rest of the property will remain in its current state. As for prong number 2, it shall not consume more than 49% of the gross residential living space, including accessory structures, and shall not change the residential character of the property. The residential property at issue consists of a home with 1,584 square feet of living space and a total of 2,112 square feet of total space. So the garage at issue is 1,000 square feet. I'm not really sure how you calculate the percentage, but either way you do it, if you do it based on the living space, then the business would consume 39% of the gross residential living space. If the total square footage is used, then it would take up only 32%. Either way, you're below the 49% threshold. Number 3, a maximum of 2 on-site non-residential employees. Mr. Welsh is the only employee. Number 4, this business would not be permitted in a duplex or multifamily dwelling. This is not applicable. The residence is a single-family home. Number 5, one sign which advertises the business is permitted. It shall be unlighted and shall not exceed 3 square feet. This is not applicable. Mr. Welsh will not be having any kind of sign. Number 6, all outdoor storage, display, and other external indications of the business activity shall be screened from neighboring view. The business will take place, as we said, entirely inside the garage, and it will not be seen by the neighbors. And to ensure that his neighbors will not see the business, Mr. Welsh has also taken steps to plant 42 arborvitaes along the property to screen the garage. Number 7, any use that may be objectionable, noxious, or injurious by reason of the production of emissions of odor, dust, smoke, refuse, fumes, noise, vibration, heat, or excessive illumination is prohibited. In addition, the use, storage, or disposal of hazardous materials, chemicals, byproducts, medical waste, or other similar considered dangerous to health and safety shall not be permitted without full local and state regulatory approval. He's taken various steps to ensure this business will not become a nuisance of any kind to his neighbors. His work schedule consists of 5 days. 2 of 3 of them he's usually off-site. Mr. Welsh works on-site at excavation job, well, I should say off-site from his house, at excavation jobs, and he sometimes makes deliveries of these products to his customers. To make sure the noise was minimal, he added an air conditioning unit to the garage so he can keep the doors and windows closed, as well as some insulation he's also added. His tools that he chooses to use are quiet. He's even switched from using grinding wheels to sanding discs, and any potential fumes from the work that he does would be contained by a fume extract and mitigation unit that uses carbon and HEPA filters to purify the air and removes contaminants. Your code officer made a recent visit to this site to come check up on him. When he did, it's even noted in the code officer's report that he had to stick his ear up to the door to hear what was going on because he couldn't hear anything going on outside. And at that time, we would go on record as saying he was actually using the loudest machine he has. And so it wasn't until your code enforcement officer knocked on the door and opened the door and saw that he was even inside. Number 8, a maximum of 2 registered vehicles related to the business may be kept in view. All other business-related equipment must be garaged or screened from a neighboring view. He only owns 1 vehicle that's even registered to his business, and he will keep it in the garage, and it will not be within the neighbor's view. Number 9, delivery of goods and materials is limited to vehicles customarily associated with residential deliveries. He only uses regular mail carriers, UPS, FedEx, the Postal Service, etc. Orders his supplies like many of us do on Amazon, so things of that nature. He uses his personal car sometimes to go get stuff. We don't anticipate any abnormal delivery truck activity. One of the things that called the code enforcement officer out there is somebody complained that there was a truck that had made a delivery there. But we're going to go on record, and it was done so to the code enforcement officer's satisfaction that delivery was personal in nature. 10, customer parking shall be provided off-street and may not be located within the required front, side, and rear setbacks of the property. Mr. Welsh has few customers that seldomly will ever visit his property, if at all. And when they do, they will park in the driveway, and it will be, minimal number of cars, probably 1 person at a time. No retail sales other than those, this is number 11, no retail sales other than those that are incidental to and customarily associated with the business use for which the permit was issued. Not applicable, but he's not doing any sales. 12, an accessory structure built or converted for home occupation shall be a size, style, and type that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and compatible of reversion to uses that are customarily accessory to the resident. The garage at issue is not changing except for what's going on inside of it. The outside is going to stay the same. Garage was approved 3 years ago by the town of Pelham and has since been painted the same color as his house to try to keep it aesthetically pleasing. And the garage can easily be returned to its normal use once the home occupation ceases. Number 13, when the proposed general home occupation shall result in an increase of the amount of wastewater to be discharged, it shall be shown by the applicant that there is subsurface wastewater disposal system that has been approved by the New Hampshire Water Supply and Pollution Control Commission, or that system adequate for the proposed use shall be installed as a condition of issuing a special exception. Not applicable, there's no plumbing in the garage. And the BOA may impose any other reasonable conditions on the home occupation that are necessary to protect the residential character of the neighborhood. We absolutely welcome that. Whatever we can do to satisfy any angry neighbors that might not be okay with this, we're certainly willing to work with them and find some common ground. And of course, site plan review is need to be sought. Well, of course, would do that as well, should we get through here.
Let's take care of the first elephant in the room here. Do we have any English teachers in the room here? Because the definitions was a problem for our administrative staff. You had come into us before for variance from light manufacturing. They sent out a notice on light manufacturing, but you objected and said it should be fabrication. And I'm not sure there's a difference there. So could you please explain? I'm genuinely, I'm not trying to be fresh. I don't understand how, as you said a few minutes ago, that what he's doing hasn't changed. Am I right? And yet now all of a sudden, instead of having a variance in front of us for an industrial use in a residential area, we now have a general home occupation in a residential area, and nothing's changed since the last time you were here.
Well, for one, I don't think your ordinance defines industrial use. At least I couldn't find it. So, for one, and if you use the almighty Google and start hopping onto definitions, the one through line that you'll find that's common with the term industrial is that it means it's big, large, need a lot of space. Certainly industrial use is spoken of in your ordinance to the extent that you need, I think, 80,000 square feet or 40,000 square feet, something like that, for a building. That's not what he's doing. This is a very, very small operation, very highly specialized, and it is rather unique. And moreover, we're willing to entertain a sunset clause on this thing. All he's trying to do here is build up a client base so that he can then move this operation somewhere else, and also kind of wait till the real estate market cools off and stops on its roller coaster. So it's too hard for him to find, he doesn't have enough of a base right now to go somewhere else. So he's just kind of trying to get his wheels going, and then he'll move elsewhere, and we'd be certainly willing to entertain an expiration date, if that'll help.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Anything I'm missing?
The industrial and manufacturing was what I was told I needed for the variance application. I was also told I needed a variance, and I didn't consult a lawyer or anything on it. I just said, okay, if that's what I need, I'll put in the application. It wasn't until I was at the meeting here that I realized the severity of what a variance would impose on the neighborhood. The fact that it would live on beyond me leaving the property. And I get why people would oppose that, because it might be just me doing my own thing at my house, but I might move, and if it was an industrially zoned lot, then someone else could do whatever they wanted. So I certainly don't blame any of the abutters for opposing that. And that's why I feel like the special exception is a more appropriate clause of the zoning ordinance for me to be applying for, because I'm not looking to do anything large scale. I'm the only employee. I just want to get the business off the ground, and then I'll move it to Hopefully, I'm hoping to buy a piece of land and put a building on it. But yeah, I'm just looking to get started, and I feel that with the clauses and restrictions that the board could put on me should they see fit, with the special exception, that should be enough to please the neighbors, and especially with the sunset clause that it'll expire in 2 years, and it's not forever.
And just if I could echo, Mr. Chair, that is a significant difference. The variance would have run with the land, this won't. And it's obviously subject to a lot of regulation that he's certainly willing to.
This is your application. I've got a note here that it was sent out to abutters as a light industrial, and you prefer the term fabrication?
Well, I didn't want to give people the wrong idea that we're not sticking, again, look up industrial, big.
It's your
building.
application.
Right, so, we wanted to be clear that, what this guy's proposing is small and it's quiet. And, that's the point.
So for purposes of the meeting, okay, since it's your application, we'll refer to this as fabrication.
Thank you.
It's okay for purposes. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I've got a question. What chemical or chemicals do you use, if any, in this process that wouldn't be considered standard to be around for a homeowner?
The only thing that would be like the welding gases, which is argon, which is an inert gas. It doesn't react with anything else, but you're unlikely to find it in a regular house. And then the other gas that gets used is an argon and CO2 mix, which CO2 comprises the majority of our atmosphere.
You mentioned 3D printing?
So that's my customer base. They're a 3D printing company. I make parts for their machines out of stainless steel tubing and other stainless steel components. They send me the drawings through email. I give them a quote. They say, hey, make it for us. I make it, and I send it to them.
So you're not doing any 3D print?
No, that's just my major customer base.
What about any external items such as a dumpster, where you might have no externals, nothing like that?
I do have a small-scale excavation company in addition to the metalworks company, and I did previously have my excavator and flatbed trailer on site. Those have both been moved off-site. I do still have a tractor at the house, but it's personal use as much as it is business. It's Pelham. There's 80% of the yards in Pelham have a tractor in them, so. But the other larger equipment that was outside of my garage is all gone. So when you drive by the house, you see a garage and you see my car in the driveway.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that last time we talked about the gases and stuff like that, and I think you said now that you have air conditioning and some type of
Yeah, so when we
system?
first built the garage, I had the air conditioning unit put in so that I could keep my doors and windows closed. It was insulated both to keep the heat and cooling in, and also for some sound deadening aspect to help contain noise. But since the last meeting, I know a lot of the abutters were concerned about fumes, and you had brought up some fume concerns. The very next day after that meeting, I went out and bought a fume extractor that uses carbon and HEPA filters. So.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I'm assuming in the process of fabrication, you mentioned grinding wheels. I mean, there must, so assuming you put pieces of metal together and then you must grind something off, what are we doing with or what are you doing with I should say, I'm sorry, the discarded metal that does, how is that collected and how is that disposed of?
I put it in 5-gallon buckets until I have too many of them, and then I take it to a local scrapyard in Nashua.
Any other questions? All right, let me just interject before we open up to the public. We had announced at the beginning that tonight's hearings we would not start a new hearing after 10. Well, it's just before 10, but we are in the hearing now, so we will continue on this, all right, just so everybody understands. And if anybody needs coffee or no dose, sorry. Would you like to add anything?
I have nothing more at this time.
Okay.
Not at this time.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition or has a question on this proposal? Yes, sir, you had the first hand up. Would you folks just sit over there, let these folks come on up? Sit the first row, yeah. You can just move back and just let them sit in your seats, yeah. Thank you. your names and address.
Can I just, I only have 5 of these, and I didn't get a chance to give them to you earlier. Can I just pass them?
We didn't realize that we'd be alternates, and we didn't bring you 10.
That's fine.
But they can show you the pictures if you want to see.
I think you can also put it onto the camera if you want to go that far, but it's up to you.
Well, yeah, I think it's okay.
Bob and Sheila Taplin, 31 Brookview Drive. This is my wife Sheila. We are direct, I'm not used to public speaking, so I'm going to read what I've written here. We are direct abutters to the right or east of this property. The building that he wants to run his business in is 20 feet from our property line. I would first like to start by refreshing the board's memory, and a lot of this, I'm sorry, it's going to repeat some of the previous hearing. I would first like to start by refreshing the board's memory that this same light industrial / light manufacturing hearing was brought forward on July 11th, 2022, seeking a variance. On that night, the hearing was heard and the board voted 5-0 to deny the variance. Mr. Welch was given a 30-day right to appeal, which he did not do. He is now bringing forth the same request for a light industry / light manufacturing business as an application for a general home occupation special exception. We believe that this case should not move forward as the applicant forfeited his right to another hearing by not appealing within the 30-day period. We also believe that a light industry / light manufacturing business or machine shop as advertised on Mr. Welch's website on the internet, which you have a copy of, should be in the industrial zone per zoning laws. We also believe that this should be addressed as a variance, not a home occupation special exception, because it does change the zoning from residential to industrial. Light industry is defined in the ordinance Article 12, Section 307-16 as a business designated in the industrial district. If this case is allowed to move forward, I would like to state my objections to the criteria of a special exception. We believe that the conditions for a special exception are a lot easier and do not address that the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. On that night in July, the majority of board members did agree that it would lower our property value and other surrounding properties. Now I would like to address the following conditions that we feel are not met. Condition 1, the occupation is clearly secondary and subordinate to the primary residential use and shall not change the residential character of the neighborhood. In response, we believe that it will definitely change the residential character of the neighborhood because we will now have a business that is a light industry machine shop in a residential zone and will lose the quiet tranquility and rural character and peace of a residential neighborhood. I would like to define what a machine shop is per the internet. A machine shop is a facility with equipment and supplies for machining, a process where parts are cut, fabricated, and finished to prepare them for use. Machine shops are used in the creation of new parts as well as repairs of existing equipment and parts. This does not sound like a business that should be in a residential area. Condition 2, it shall not consume more than 49% of the gross residential living space, including accessory structures, and shall not change the residential character of the property. In response, according to the Pelham Assessors database, this building that he wants to run his business from has 1,040 square feet. His house, according to the Pelham Assessors database, has a living space of 1,584 square feet. This building is well over the 49% gross residential living space. Also, it will definitely change the residential character of the property. Condition 7, any use that may be objectionable, noxious, or injurious by reason of the production of emissions of odor, dust, smoke, refuse matter, fumes, noise, vibration, heat, or excessive illumination is prohibited. In response, I would like to address the noise aspect of this condition. We have already heard loud noises of grinding, banging, compressor sounds, and pneumatic sounds. Even though he has not been granted a special exception. We can only expect it to get worse if this special exception is granted. Also, as the condition states, objectionable emissions of noise is prohibited. Condition 9, delivery of goods and materials is limited to vehicles customarily associated with residential deliveries. In response, on numerous occasions, we have seen trailer trucks, which you can see in the photos, and other box trucks that you would not normally see in a residential area, but you would see the small Amazon, UPS, Brown trucks, or small FedEx vans that are in every neighborhood. We have lived at this residence for 45 years and never had a delivery by a trailer truck, nor seen anyone else have a delivery by a trailer truck. Condition 12, an accessory structure built or converted for home occupation purposes shall be a size, style, and type that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and capable of revision to uses that are customary accessory to residential. In response, we believe that this condition is definitely not met because the size of this building is 25 by 40 feet, which is almost the size of our house, which is 24 by 44 feet, and is not compatible with any other buildings in our neighborhood because of its size and commercial-grade metal structure. We also do not believe that a machine shop is not customarily accessory to residential. In conclusion, I believe that no business of this type should be allowed in a residential zone, and that it may start a precedence for other industrial businesses to be also started in our neighborhood, because how can you say no to anyone else who wants to start an industrial business? I also believe that no business in a residential zone should be allowed by the Board of Adjustment that will diminish the value of our property and the surrounding properties. As stated in Article 12, Section 307-76, additional requirements for home occupation, purpose and intent. Article number 2, protect residential areas and property values. I believe that this requirement, taken right from the zoning ordinances, says it all. Protect residential areas and property values. Thank you. My wife would like to say something.
I am Sheila Taplin, 31 Brookview Drive. I just want to mention a few things to start this. I have a couple of issues. This is almost in our backyard. It's 20 feet from our property. It's closer to my property line than it is to his living house. I don't understand how, no, wait a minute, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I wanted to mention that this whole thing started, I think the building was put up in 2019, and he had a building permit for a non-commercial building. In July, there was a variance that he wanted to use it for light industry and light manufacturing, which was denied, and now we're back again for a whole different thing. Okay. I don't understand how you can apply for variance, get it denied, and then come back and apply for something else. In Section 5, 307-6, Article 5, 307-16, districts defined, and it specifically states that District 1 is established to provide light industrial development, warehousing, limited business, and customary accessory and structure. This states that light industry and manufacturing, the table in 307-18 specifically says that light industry and manufacturing are permitted in an industrial district only. So allowing an industrial district clearly defines this as a zoning change. The other issue I have is the difference between a variance and a home occupation. There's one condition in there that I don't understand. The variance has the condition of diminished property values of the surrounding areas, and none of these 13 or 15 conditions for a home occupation has anything to do with diminished property value. So that kind of bothers
Well,
me.
let me butt in here. There's another huge difference between the two. And that variance is, and it plays to a little bit about this discrepancy among the criteria. If we agree that all all criteria under a special exception is present, we must approve. The variance calls for judgment. You've seen it tonight if you've been here. We disagree, we look at it, and there's an argument of, we've had arguments about all 5 of those criteria, those 5 criteria. Special exception, there is no wiggle room. If you agree with the statement that it meets those criteria, this gets approved. So just, that's what, it's a huge difference. It's a huge difference.
Oh, no, I understand that, but I don't understand why there's not something in those conditions about the surrounding
State
property.
sets this up.
Oh,
The
okay,
state
it's the state.
imposes this.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, and the other thing is, I know he talked about fabrication, and he said something too about looking up Google, and before I came, I did do that, and I found a definition of metal fabrication is the process in manufacturing sheet metal and other metals to make, to make specific shapes. As an industry, metal fabrication has a vast range of applications. So it's listing fabrication as.
Well, I asked for, if there anybody here was an English teacher. So.
Well, I'm not an English, I was a math teacher.
We're gonna have a discussion about that when we're all done.
Yeah, and
We
I
have
mean,
to,
I
we have
looked
to
it up
get
in
in,
a
I
couple
hate
of
to get into
places.
definitions, but we're gonna have to in this case.
Okay, very quickly, just to reiterate some of the conditions that we felt weren't met. He mentioned the one about the occupation, condition number 1, the occupation clearly shall not change the residential character of the neighborhood. Article 5, Section 307-16, districts defined, and again, is still labeling this as a industry district. It specifically says the district is intended to be non-residential character. This definition, the district is intended to be a non-residential character, supports that allowing a light industry business in a residential zone with non-residential character changes the character of the neighborhood. Okay? The other thing was in Article 12, Section 307-73, General Requirements, Part B, Special Exceptions. The proposed use is consistent with the purpose and intent of the district with which it is proposed to be located. A machine shop doesn't meet the purpose of a neighborhood, and then it's compatible with the character of the surrounding neighborhoods. It is not, okay? Let's see, we already went over that. Number 7, on number 7, we talked about objectable noises and dust and odor are prohibited. We were concerned about the emissions of dust and fumes and so forth. At the variance meeting, Mr. Welch did mention that when he's doing certain work, he wears a mask, which says to me that there must be some type of toxic emissions and matter and fumes. What prevents them from escaping out in the air? And then the noise, and I just want to play something because he said, they had said that they weren't hearing much noise. If I can find it. Oops. Here it is. Okay. And this was from my house. Now I was in my house in my living room, and this was just one piece of noise. I mean, again, right now it's not.
Is that before or after he put in his noise abatement measures?
After.
It was after, I think. It was this. Yeah. So, I mean, just to give you an idea of some of the noises, and I think our concern is if this is approved, that this type of noise and maybe some of the banging that we've heard previous might end up happening more often. And we have a pool, and it's pretty close to his building, so that's really going to interrupt our outdoor pool activities if he's working in there. And then number 9 was delivery of goods. You have 2 pictures there of at least twice that we've seen trailers delivering to his property. And again, concern is if this is approved, what's to prevent them those
I'm not trying to shut you off, but you're repeating some other things that your husband said.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
And I'm past my bedtime.
Yeah. Actually, it's past mine, too. And just, I mean, the other thing was what he said about the building. It's a large building. It's almost as big as our house. So it isn't comparable with what's in the neighborhood, okay? Let's see. That's probably about it. The rest of it he already said, so I'm going to let that go.
Thank you.
We just strongly wish that you...
Okay, no, I don't mean to shut you off.
No,
If
I
you
know,
got something
and it's hard
extra-
when he writes it and then I write it. and then we
No,
try-
I understand. We're not trying to pick on you guys. It's
That's
just-
all right.
Can I say one more thing to rebut about the trailer truck that they said that was delivering, that the code enforcement officer came? The code enforcement officer told me that it was a transmission for his vehicle that he uses in the his work vehicle. That truck wouldn't have been there if he didn't have a work truck for this building. So that disputes that. The other truck, there's another picture of a trailer truck showing him unloading him. He has a forklift blade for a Kubota tractor that he has. Why do you need a forklift blades if you're not going to be getting, you're just going to be getting the little UPS trucks and the Amazon vans? So to me, it just shows intent that there's going to be larger vehicles there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition who has something different? Not trying to shut anybody off, but come on up. Your name and address, please.
Dan Daigle, 11 Heritage Road, Pelham. For the sake of, Bob pretty much covered everything I was going to cover about the size of the building and things like that. I just want to give everybody a reminder of the grinding side. I didn't know Sheila had one, but I have another one, and it's quite loud. This is on wood, and if there's any inkling of approving this, I would like to ask the board to do a land walk. So could you do a site visit at the building with him grinding, some of his normal work? With the doors closed so you can hear it, just for your own information. But this right here is the grinder on wood. It's more of the same as what Sheila's, but this is wood, and this is the type of grinder he's suggesting that he uses.
When was that done?
This is my job. I'm a painting contractor, so it's, I do it regularly on different houses, but it's, for a week at a time, not...
No, but when did you tape that? When did you record that?
Oh, that was beginning of summer.
Okay, so now, we have a statement that he has since added insulation and air conditioning so he could close the doors.
You're misunderstanding me. That's me grinding. That's not him. I just wanted to show you that whether he uses a grinding wheel or a sanding grinder, I usually use a 7-inch grinding disc, and it's not going to be any quieter. It's, you still get the chatter on the metal, and it's just obnoxious when you're, even with the doors closed. Okay. But, like I said, I'd make a suggestion that you do a site visit.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in opposition? Come on up. Give me something different.
Well, it's not super different. I won't. My name is Irene Atkinson, 10 Heritage Road. It's mainly just the 3 points of fact. I think number one, it does change the character of a residential neighborhood. It's all single-family homes, and as far as I know, there aren't any other home businesses besides the other business at his address for the photography studio. So, and frankly, it's the type of business, whether he calls it fabrication or not. It's the machine shop. He is using tools that grind metal, that make noise, make dust, emit tiny chips. They call them metal chips. So I don't know how those are being collected and disposed of. From what I can read, they can be recycled, but they use oils to kind of hold them all together. You have to have special gloves to put them in the containers and special hazardous containers to transport them. So that was a concern. And the other concern that I had was, as Bob said, that if you grant this as a special exception and allow him to use this angle, it's going to open the door. The next house that goes up for sale, they're going to say, well, it worked for this guy a couple houses down, and I think it would set a very dangerous precedent. It changes the character of the neighborhood, and frankly, at the beginning, where it says 307-766, and it's talking about the purpose and intent of this whole home occupation thing, it says it should create, it shouldn't affect the property values in any way. It should protect the residential area and the property values, and I'm sorry, Mr. Welch, but having a machine shop a couple houses away, it definitely decreases your property values. And my final comment is the purpose and intent of creating this special exemption rule is to create a harmonious balance between the individual that wants it and the abutters. And it's my feeling that if it's granted, it's going to be great for him, it's going to be a big plus, but frankly, as a person that lives right around the corner and I'm not directly abutting his property, I don't find anything positive. I think it's a big zero, a big loss, it's a decrease in my property, and it changes the character of my neighborhood, and I don't find anything positive, so I think it creates a very unequal balance if this is allowed to go through. So I'm just asking that it be
Thank you,
denied.
thank you. Anyone else? I gotta go to bed. Okay, no, I think you were next. All right.
Hi, I'm Chris Amato. It's my husband Alan Amato. We are on 25 Brookview Drive. We oppose the decision for this variance to go through. I'm not going to reiterate what everybody else said, but a couple of questions I do have is the last time that it was denied, I was under the impression that they would have to stop working at that address, and that did not happen.
One of the things that happens in Pelham and every other town is there is a judicial component on zoning. That's what we do. We make these decisions based on the zoning rules and laws. Then there's an enforcement aspect, which is code enforcement, all right? So we don't go out and beat people over the head for anything. We just make those judicial decisions, and if you find an issue that there is a violation against something we decided on a variance or something else, you need to call the code enforcement officer here in town. That's his job, and go out and get him. He'll go out and investigate. Now, we've already had testimony, he has been out there, so he knows how to find the house. And if you find an issue, just call. Call the office, call town hall, and he will respond. He will.
Okay, because I know that they did say that they wanted, put some type of restrictions of date, working hours, things like that, to try to, make the abutters feel better.
Ordinarily on that, that's not what we do generally, except on special exceptions. We often will put those kinds of issues, but generally planning board will do a site plan review and do those kinds of things. But on special exception, we do set hours and we do set restrictions if we approve.
Okay, I guess my point is that I'm really finding that, there's two sides, obviously, but the situation at hand is that I'm seeing poor character on their behalf, because I feel like if something was denied and there was no rules and regulations followed, and then this passes, what's going to happen if it passes, if he hasn't really been true to all his neighbors with all of the complaints so far?
We're not into the sin business. We just look at the rules and we try to apply them, and then the enforcement is done by the code enforcement officer. I'm not trying to be flip, but I'm not going to ascribe bad motive to anybody coming in here. That's what we're supposed to be here for. Okay? So
Okay, well,
watch what we do.
Well, everything I had written down was pretty much what everybody else said, but I just wanted to thank you for letting me speak.
Well, thank you
And to let you know
for
that we do oppose the
Okay,
situation.
thank you. Anyone else?
I just got one question.
Sure.
Does he do aluminum dust? Because aluminum dust is flammable.
I'll ask him.
All right.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Oh, yes, ma'am. You've been waiting. Go ahead.
Short and sweet, don't worry, sorry. My name is Mary Vieira, and I live at 6 Heritage Road. I live around the corner from them. I don't live too close, but my thing is, he says he just wants a special exception for a little home-based business. In my opinion, this is not a little home-based business. I've had quite a few home-based businesses, like skincare, whatever, and that doesn't even compare to like metal fabrication, manufacturing, whatever he wants to do out of his garage. That's quite different than a little home-based business. And I don't even live right next door to him. The other people do, Mr. and Mrs. Taplin, and they're like right on top of their pool pretty much, right next to their property. Now, when they go to resell their property, what is it going to do to their property value? It's going to diminish it by far. They're not going to get, as much for it as they would because there's a business right next to their house.
Now, I need to interject something because it has come up before on this board. I've been in the real estate business for 49 years. I testified and all that, but I got slapped down by an appeals court for claiming expertise. So I don't do it.
Okay.
I'm not an expert, first of all. Second of all, on special exception, it doesn't even come up. We're not even talking about values. Okay, so just be aware of that.
Okay.
Okay?
So then how did that come up? How could he?
It's in the variance, in a variance request, diminution of values of abutting properties or neighboring properties is absolutely part of our 5 criteria. But it does not come into the list of criteria for special exception. We're not doing that tonight.
Yeah, I never heard that. Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Thank you. All right, one more. I gotta cut it off. I need no dose.
My name is Jim Blanchett, 27 Brookview Drive. I just want to say, I can appreciate someone wanting to start a business, but I'm against it. I don't think that type of industry should be in a residential neighborhood. Everybody in that neighborhood is retired, in that area is retired. They're in the yards every day, working in the yard. And I think noise or any gases, it's just not good for the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything burning, innovative, new? All right, I'll give you a chance to come up and rebut, briefly.
Well, one thing I'd like to offer up to the board briefly is one of the abutters there had the idea of doing a site walk, and we'd certainly welcome you to come see this place for yourself while he's doing his thing with the door closed and show you that, it's really a workshop, if that would help in your decision-making.
We'll see what the board says.
Okay. And,
Anything else?
Beyond that, I just want to mention again that the transmission delivery that came by tractor trailer, that was out of his hands, it came in a crate and it was for his truck, because he knows how to put in a transmission himself, unlike myself. And the code enforcement officer has already spoken to him and said that, if he's unsuccessful here, he's got to pull the plug, so he's aware of that. So that has also been addressed.
Anything else?
Not for me. Anything else you want to say?
No, I don't
Okay, thank you. We're going to bring it up, closing public input. Okay, folks, we'll start with our newest member. Now, the first thing we have to kind of look at on a special exception, it's a yes or no based on the criteria of a special exception. I think the first thing, we go back to our English teacher. I wish we had one here on the board, because is fabrication significantly different than light industrial? Because if it is not, this case has already been decided in conjunction with our zoning administrator, who determined that it needed a variance. Okay, that's why it came before us this summer. Now, if fabrication is different, then we can treat this as a de novo case, a new case. It's different. It's not the same as a light industrial. Because light industrial is specified in our zoning laws, it needs to be an industrial area. That's why you need a variance. Fabrication, and I'm using what you guys are calling it, I don't know. We know the criteria, it has to be less than a certain percentage of the property, and that's where you get into a general business. So that's the first thing we have to decide. Should we consider what he's doing as light industrial, or is it something else? I'm asking the question.
So if I might try and address it.
Go.
You can go back, what, a month, when you called in from Italy. We described that business as light industrial, where you took a product and converted it into another product.
That's correct. And there was a transformation of a product. And that's where I thought we had erred, and I had said that. I thought we had made a mistake the more I thought about it, despite the fact everybody in the world's got a log splitter in this town. Not everybody's using it for commercial purposes. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So you anticipate me. Okay, anybody else? All right, anything else you want to bring up before the board, before we vote? Now, I'm going to ask, we're going to use what we did before. If it is a non-unanimous vote, I'm going to have to ask both sides to come up with your facts. That's what the state is now requiring us to do. If it comes up unanimous, we'll just summarize everyone. But that, we'll see what happens. So get your special exception slips out. Does anyone else like to talk about what you see in this case? Jim?
If you're gonna, you said you were gonna discuss a site walk, you haven't done that.
If you'd like to make a motion, it's okay with me. I'm not sure.
The applicant brought it up himself, so.
Yep. Well, it's up to you. If anyone would like to make a motion for a sidewalk, obviously I'll entertain it.
Seeing I brought it up, I guess I'll make a motion, because we're gonna go out on a site walk this Saturday. We can show up there, see what he does.
I'm not sure this turns on that, to be honest.
You don't think it turns on what?
On looking and seeing where this property is. I'm familiar with the neighborhood, I know the neighborhood, and I mean, I think it turns on English. Is it industrial or not? Is this a home a general business? Is it secondary? Can you give a special exception, or do you have to have a variance? If you have to have a variance, this has been decided.
Yeah, that's already got decided. The idea of the variance was that would run with the land. This would be a temporary business. This general home occupation could have conditions. If he went through this and was accurate, there's one employee, no signs, no outdoor storage, no dumpster, no equipment. And the big issue, and it's a good one, was the sound. So, should we hear that sound? If there is a sound, should we hear that sound?
I understand. If you want it, we'll vote on it. My problem, Jim, okay, is call it fabrication, call it industrial. I think it's light industrial. And I think therefore, under our zoning, this did call for a variance, and I think it's been decided. I feel for him. I hear what you're saying, and it certainly might have changed if this was the first thing in front of us, but what he's doing hasn't changed from when we made the decision in July.
What he's doing, no, it hasn't. So, all right, I made a motion for a site walk. Any?
Second? Is there a second for a site walk?
Second on that.
You want a second? Sure. All in favor of a site walk?
I'll do a site walk, sure.
You're gonna vote for it?
You might as well ruin the whole Saturday morning.
You can't go Saturday, so.
All right, you're gonna do it?
Actually, no, I mean, I'm not gonna.
Oh, you can't
I can't even go on Saturday, so I'm not. What am I
You
saying?
can't even go.
I'm not gonna be here, I gotta go out to
All
Hanover.
right, his vote still counts.
No, I'm not gonna.
No,
Sorry.
so it fails, all right. If anyone has anything else to add, we will, otherwise we will vote on the special
Can I just
exception.
say something about the fabrication?
Yes,
I look at it different. I look at it the size of the building, what he's doing. I mean, I personally don't think 24 by 40 is a big area to work around in.
somebody had mentioned.
I wouldn't call that.
Somebody had mentioned precedent. Now, under the law, we don't have precedents.
Correct.
Every case is different, okay? So precedence isn't in there. It really isn't. But I keep going back to a memory of Fletcher Drive, a year ago, in which it was a big honking building, which the guy was doing he was doing his mechanic shop. And the neighbors came out against it. And one of the issues that we looked at was the scale of the property, what he was doing. I don't know, I agree with you. I think 20 by 40, that's bigger than my house. Bigger than my house. And I think it's an indication that this is more than a side business, to be honest.
If I may, I'm not.
Go ahead, the public hearing is stopped, but if you want to say something, because I probably overstepped in stating, but go ahead, if you got something.
Go ahead. Okay, so I'm not trying to say it's a side business. I am saying that this is my primary income. You know, this is my primary business. I'm not making the illusion that it's a side, thing. I am owning up to the fact that this is,
No, I get it, and I'm not trying to punish you for being a good worker and trying to develop a business, but I think it is what it is. Yes, sir. You're new.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the first go-around, but basically what I've heard discussed tonight, what I think I've heard you guys say, I think you already ruled on it.
It's coming in on a different
It's a different.
rubric. It's
different-
not coming in as a variance, it's coming in as a special exception.
Right.
I think the attorney has done a nice job in presenting, but I think, just because you've changed the name from tomato to an orange, I think it's still a tomato.
That's where I'm coming from. I'm saying, I think you've already hashed this out, you've already gone through it, you've used your best judgment, and here we go again.
All right, the case is, where are we? Case is 2022-23. So isn't this more fun than conservation?
It's a lot longer than
David Wing, no. John Westwood, yes. Jim Bergeron, yes. Dave Hennessy, no. Jeff Chara, yes.
I have a criteria on mine.
Sorry.
Has to meet the noise ordinance.
As to meet ordinance criteria, and if yes.
That would be an automatic thing anyhow, it would have to meet that.
So I need everybody to hold off for a minute. This has been approved. There's a 30-day right of appeal, everyone. 30-day right of appeal. This is approved. Now, because of the new state law, the rules, I need what your findings of fact are, okay? So Jim, you want to start?
Yeah, mine is simple, Mr. Chairman, I think I already mentioned it. As we went down through the 13, the only aggravating condition I saw that may not be met would be the noise level that would come out of the business. And I asked for a site walk, we didn't get that, so I gave you a yes vote, and I wanted to make sure that everybody understands that if this was a silent business contained inside that building with no outside indication, he meets the criteria. But the noise part of it would knock it out. But I couldn't get the sidewalk, so I voted yes.
So can I rephrase, noise level is the
Say it
only
any way you
possible strike against calling it a special exception?
It's the only thing I saw on the 13
Oh,
criteria.
that's fine, that's good, that's good.
The building is there. If it doesn't make any noise and it's a quiet operation, I happen to know of machine shops in residential areas in Pelham that haven't gone through this. But that's a story for another day.
John?
I have to, I voted yes, because listening to the criteria, I felt that the criteria and the exceptions and all were met completely. Now, I know the noise level seems to be the problem, but as we heard the explanation about they couldn't hear it when you shut the door and all that kind of stuff, I didn't vote that as something that was bad criteria, but now that I hear it, I understand what Dave and Jimmy are saying.
Okay. Yes, you voted no, right?
I voted no, yeah.
Okay, just give me a good one reason.
Noise.
The noise level.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly states, I mean, I believe the criteria is that you have to meet all 13, 14, 15 criteria in order to grant the special exception. I mean, five abutters came forward saying it's noisy.
Jeff, you voted?
Yes.
Yes.
5 abutters did come forward, but one paid official went there and heard it for himself. That's mine right there, so.
Okay.
And there's no signs. I know the property. I drive by it every day. It's neat as a pin.
Fits into the into the neighborhood, you're saying?
I believe it does. It's more manicured than mine.
I think, Mr. Chairman, if one of these criteria weren't met, we couldn't grant it. All 13 had to be met. I mean, to me, it proved everything except the noise, which I wanted to get proven, but we didn't seem to want to prove it. So I'm just saying, I would have liked to have known if there's noise coming out of it, I wouldn't want to sit next to it either.
All right, so those are the 3 reasons. My reason for voting no was that this is a decided vote. I mean, nothing's changed. It's still there the way it was.
Mr. Chair, and the deadening insulation too. I mean, I would have loved to hear it too for myself. I have.
We only got 2 votes to have the site walk.
I have a metal building myself, and I have insulation. I know what they're about.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. We're gonna have to come up with a form to go and do this more. We have had no guidance from the state,